In the land of Israel, a prophet named Elisha served God with all his heart. God gave him special wisdom to know things that no one else could know. At that time, the king of Aram was planning secret attacks against Israel, but every time he made a plan, God told Elisha, and Elisha warned the king of Israel. This happened again and again, and the king of Aram became furious. One day, the king of Aram gathered his officers and shouted, "Who among us is a traitor? Who is telling Israel our plans?" But one of his soldiers spoke up, "My king, it is not a spy. It is Elisha, the prophet. He knows everything, even what you whisper in your bedroom." Hearing this, the king of Aram became even angrier. "Then we must capture Elisha, find out where he is, and send my entire army to seize him." That night, the king's soldiers found out that Elisha was staying in a small city called Dothan. Immediately, the king sent horses, chariots, and a great army to surround the city. Before the sun rose, the enemy army had completely surrounded the town. Early the next morning, Elisha's servant woke up and stepped outside. But as soon as he looked around, his heart filled with fear. On every side, there were soldiers, horses, and chariots ready to attack. There was no way out. The servant ran back inside, trembling. "Master, what will we do? We are surrounded." But Elisha remained calm. He smiled and said, "Do not be afraid. There are more on our side than on theirs." The servant was confused. More on our side? He could only see himself and Elisha. Then Elisha prayed, "Lord, open his eyes so he may see." At that moment, God opened the servant's eyes, and what he saw took his breath away. All around the mountains, covering the hills, was a mighty army of flaming chariots and angels, God's heavenly army. The servant gasped in amazement. They were not alone. God's army was greater and more powerful than any enemy. As the enemy's soldiers moved closer, Elisha prayed again, "Lord, strike them with blindness." And immediately, the soldiers could no longer see. Elisha walked up to them and said, "You are in the wrong place. Follow me, and I will take you to the man you are looking for." Since they were blind, the enemy army had no choice but to follow Elisha. And where did he lead them? Right into the city of Samaria, the home of Israel's king. Once inside the city, Elisha prayed again, "Lord, open their eyes." Suddenly, the enemy soldiers could see again. But when they looked around, their hearts filled with fear. They were completely trapped inside the city. The king of Israel was overjoyed. "Shall we attack them, Elisha? Shall we fight?" But Elisha shook his head. "No, do not harm them. Instead, give them food and water, and then send them home." So, instead of attacking, the Israelites fed their enemies a great feast. The